either Tino or Vince. Is there a recent polling that shows us where Prop 15 is at this moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And a little bit of context, all public polling is what we usually reference. So PPIC did a poll in April of this year, which found that likely voters at a clip of 55% supported taxing commercial and industrial property at a different rate in order to provide more funding for schools and local governments. So that was in April. Our campaign was just getting ramped up. We've now been on TV. We've been talking to voters. We've been doing town halls just like this. And I'm excited to update this group that in the new PPIC poll that was released in September, the proponents are now at 51% of support. So we're pushing them in the right direction. Our messages are working. We're talking to the right voters. And I think 51% is a good number to highlight. I want to make sure that folks know this is a constitutional amendment, but because it's a ballot measure, it still only requires a simple majority vote. And so we got 1% to 2% left to push this thing down and keep on going so they never come back with it. And that's why the folks on this call are so important. We need to be talking to our neighbors. We need to be talking to our colleagues so that we can continue to push that down. So Vince, if you had something to add.
I think Berkeley had a poll that came out yesterday, and it actually is they have support at 49%. So it's moving down in the right direction. It's under 50 if you look at that poll, and so it's trending from 55 down to 49. So we can't take anything for granted. We need to make sure that we get everyone out to vote and expose the deceptions that the proponents of Proposition 15 are trying to say that somehow agriculture is exempt. But that's not necessarily true if you take in the other aspects of agriculture that will be subject to tax increases. And so don't be fooled by the glossy mailers and everything else. The facts and the details, we got to dive deep into Proposition 15. This proposition has to be defeated.
I do have another follow-up question. It's really related to the solar energy industry. So how does Prop 15 impact that industry in a negative way? Can either one of you or both of you explain to our audience here, please?
Tina, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first, and then maybe Vince can touch on a recent piece of legislation that he just recently voted on. So there was an exclusion, not an exemption, for solar properties to be considered fixtures and improvements. So under Proposition 7, which was passed in 1998, you could install new solar panels and it wouldn't trigger a reassessment. The problem is that was sunsetting, and when Prop 15 was overlaid, it considers those improvements and fixtures real property, and real property is defined in the Constitution. And so our analysis, as well as the analysis of the California Assessors Association, who has an official position, and remember, the California Assessors Association is the group of 58 assessors who are going to be charged with implementing this. And they've said solar is real property. If Proposition 15 passes, then we will consider solar panels, fixtures, and improvements. So Vince is a leader in, and is dealing with the governor's recent announcement to switch to all electric. We've had blackouts. We shouldn't be undermining any part of our goal to provide renewable energy. So Vince, I know this is something you've been working on.
Sure.
If you want to touch on it.
Well, I mean, the part of the crises that we're dealing with, not only the pandemic and the recession, is that we have an energy crisis as well. I'm sure a number of folks have experienced these blackouts or known someone that's experienced these blackouts. So, we need to produce more energy in California, and we need renewable and we need traditional sources of energy. In the legislature, the solar folks, they knew the impact of what Proposition 15 was going to be on. So they tried to kind of carve themselves out. They weren't able to do so, but I mean, that shows kind of the concern that a lot of industries have. I think if a lot of industries were able to carve themselves out, they would have. And they made an attempt in the state legislature to try to carve themselves out, but the time ran out. But not only is Kern County a leader in food production, we're also a leader in energy production. So 70% of the oil produced in California is from Kern County, but we are the number one renewable county in the United States. We are number one in solar, and we're number one in wind. And so when we talk about like energy and our ability to actually put more energy online, if the solar industry, if the wind industry, if they're now reassessed at a higher rate, all those projects become in jeopardy because, as small business individuals and as business owners, right, the margins are so thin. And if now you're trying to attract capital into investment in renewable energy, if all of a sudden the tax structure gets out of whack, that investment could be pulled, and we could be losing solar farms, we could be losing wind farms, we could be losing the ability to produce renewable energy in California, and that would not be a good thing.
And I'll just add, Mei Mei, because we were talking about ag, and Vince knows this intimately, there are so many agriculturalists and farmers who have integrated this into there's dairies with methane digesters, there's dairies with solar panels, and they've been told by the state to make a commitment to that to help offset their carbon footprint. And so to add another tax on top of their dairy parlors and their barns, to now tax their methane digesters and all the commitments they've made financially and personally to uphold California standards for renewable energy, it seems to undermine our overall goals, and it's a double dip tax on our farmers.
And that's a perfect tie-in to what Senator Huff talked about with the drought and the water challenges, right? As everything gets more expensive, water's expensive, labor has become more expensive, farmers are looking for ways to reduce their costs. And one of the rising costs on farmers, in addition to water, is energy. So they've invested heavily in a lot of these renewable projects, solar, methane capture, all these projects that are now on these farms. Now they're subject to a property tax increase, and that would just increase the cost even more in addition to everything else.
So based on what you just said, the two of you, so if and when Prop 15 passes, now does that push California as the least business-friendly state in the nation?
I think it's already there.
We already there, Mei Mei. Let's just say that if and when Prop 15 is defeated, it will be a step in the right direction in getting
yes. I like that positive thinking. Yes,
because and when we are as a state, we are lagging behind every other state in our recovery. When it comes to the pandemic and the recession that has been caused by it. And so, but the reason why California is so slow in its recovery, and Senator Huff knows this, is because California has just made it so difficult for small businesses to do business in our state. And so, we have to, when it comes to taxes and fees, like we should at a minimum freeze them from where they're at. And allow small businesses, allow restaurants, allow farmers the breathing room to recover from everything that's transpired. But just imagine that we're in the middle of a global pandemic. It's caused a recession that not only has affected California but the entire United States. And of the one thing that the governor is trying to do is he's like, you know what? Now is the time that we should increase property taxes on small businesses. This is the absolutely worst time to do anything like that. And so, that's why this proposition is so important, because it's going to be the tipping point, whether our state is going to recover faster or whether whether we'll stay in this recession longer than everybody else.
I want to say this, because we've seen a flow of business migrating or leaving the state of California to other states. We've lost a lot of them. So in the last however many years, I think a big heavy burden has been resting on the new immigrants, business from the new immigrants. And that is the reason why that, it is important for us to do outreach like this, because as the first generation immigrants, they face different challenges. Because I'm a first generation, I went through the same difficulties at the very beginning. We have to study hard, work hard, and just put a lot of effort into, making ends meet, surviving. Right? So as a result, they may not be actively participating in the political process, and they are not informed because they have no time to read up on things. So it is very important for our media friends to write this, to publish news articles, earn medias for us, so people like us, get to know what's going on, and they can be educated properly when they cast the vote, and also know that it is important to participate in voting in November, because it is really helping the whole California, So if we're resting on 2 or 3%, so we can turn the support to go against Prop 15, then I think we're doing the right thing in reaching out to the Asian, the Chinese communities.
Yeah.
Thank you for
and that's a great point. And I will say this, Mei Mei, in the Asian American community, we value education and how important it is. And one of the arguments the proponents will make is that the money will go to education, but education is already the number one budget item in our budget. I'm on the budget committee, so I know those numbers. And just for a fact, we want our schools to reopen safely. We make sure that they have all the equipment and PPE that they need. But let me just utilize this fact that I think Senator Huff will know very, very intimately. The high-speed rail project in California is right now there's $2 billion in the state budget for that project. And every program in California was looking to get a cut because of the recession and the deficit that we're in. But they never cut high-speed rail. And we've advocated that if we really valued education, and if the cities and the schools needed the resources, then let's take the $2 billion and let's redirect it to the cities that need help and redirect it to the schools that need to reopen safely. But did they do that? They didn't. And Senator Huff knows probably the fights that went into that. But when we talk about the budget and what needs to be invested in, California needs to completely reprioritize our budget process. But there is money to be put into schools and to be given to the cities to help them and assist them through this recession. We don't need to increase property taxes to do that. We just need to budget the way that we all budget in our homes and our businesses.
And I'll even add to that in terms of this funding education, and this is going to say it very clearly. When you go to the ballot box, or I guess when you vote by mail this year, less than 40% of this money actually goes to education. And it's in the ballot title and summary. The first bite at the apple goes to paying the assessors to implement this. Second goes to local governments. 60% of the initiative goes to local governments. And then the last person in line for this money, the last group, is education. And when you think about $12.5 billion and the fact that it's going to benefit schools and local governments, you'd think they'd be lining up for a piece of this money. But interestingly enough, the League of California Cities, the California State Association of Counties, the California Special Districts Association, and the California School Boards Association all declined to endorse the initiative because this isn't guilt-free money. This is money that's going to be generated off the backs of small business, farmers, and consumers, and less than 40% of it goes to our kids and our schools. So to Vince's point, this is not the answer to any of our problems, let alone our educational problems.
Yeah, when we defeat Proposition 15, I think we need Mei Mei and Senator Huff to organize the Asian American community and get the money that's in the budget, and we need to put it toward the schools where they belong.
But with that, I usually do the close up.
You're gonna wrap it up now.
I'm gonna wrap up because because we started late and I don't want to keep our immediate friends. So I'm gonna keep my comment very short in Chinese. 那各位朋友们，媒体朋友们，大家下午好。非常抱歉呢，今天我们因为出了一些状况，所以呢没有办法及时的开始我们今天的会议可能有很多朋友后来也上不来，因为我没有办法临时通知每一个人，因为我发通知的时候大多数都是个别通知的，因为我很